Hello. Hello. Welcome. Welcome all to the new session of the Python. Today is the day 6 of the FA Internship 2020. My name is Parag Surde, Assistant Professor at Vidyavardhini College of Engineering. And today we will discuss about semantics. Okay. And in the previous session, we have discussed some of the concepts related with the Python installation and introduction of the Python. So we will continue. Outline of the today's presentation is we will discuss variables in detail today. Then we will discuss what are the different types of data types. Then we will study the concepts of characters and the strings in Python. Then we will study what are the different types of operators in Python. Then we will study the input and output statements in the Python. Then we will study some of the control statements in the Python. And then we will study the concepts of the arrays in Python. Okay. So let's proceed to the session. Okay. So in the previous session, I have introduced you to the different types of variables. In today's session, we will be discussing about what are those different types of variables that can be used and how to use them. Okay, so let's go ahead. So in Python, we can even change the type of variable after it has been set once or initialized with some other type. We will discuss about this later. What I mean to say here, whenever we assign any value to a variable, we can change the type of that variable, and not only once but many times. So I have an example given ahead which will let you clear more in detail. So this can be done by assigning a value of different type of the to the variable. A variable in Python can hold any type of value like 20. What is a 20? It is an integer value. Example taken here is again a 99.99. What is the type of variable it is? It is a float type of variable. Ahead, internship. Internship is what type of variable? It is a character cluster, or you can say character array. It is called as a string in Python, or even in C or any other programming language. Whenever we are using the characters together, it is called as a string. So let us take an example. I have assigned a value of 3 to the A, and to the same A variable in the next line I have assigned a value hello world to the same variable A, right? It is definitely allowed in Python, but as a convention we should avoid, sorry, to assign a different types of values. That is, whenever we assign some integer values to another variable, same variable, we should avoid the characters to be assigned to the same variable. Look at the next Example, current date. Here, current date is a another variable. What is assigned to it? Monday, comma 29 June 2020. That is today's date. Along with the today's day is assigned to the same variable. In the next line, what I have assigned 29 June 2020. Now let's demonstrate it using a Python. So I am using a Python 3.4 version. Now what does that mean? Whenever we assign any value to a variable on in the same in the next line, I am assigning a different value to a same variable, right? So the latest value which is been assigned to the variable is stored in the memory. This is a GUI of a Python. So let's demonstrate the same statement. I have assigned a 3 to the A. In the next line, I am assigning hello world. Now let's print. Now, just now I told what it will store. It will store the latest value which is assigned. And if I try to print, right, what it will display? It is displaying the latest value which has been assigned to the variable. Okay. So we will proceed. Any doubt in this? Okay, okay. Somebody is saying that there is a pop-up. Okay. That pop-up. Acha, still the pop-up is there. Wait, wait. I'm removing that pop-up. Okay. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Now I think the comment box is not appearing on the screen. Okay, so let's proceed. So what I was telling about, any variable, once it is created and we assign a value to that variable, and in the next line we can again assign a different type of value to the same variable. So that is completely valid in Python. So let's go ahead. Now let us see, assigning a different values to the variable allows to us by using a assignment operator. So associating a value with a variable using the assignment operator equal to is called as a binding, right? So in Python, assignment create references, not copies. So the particular concept which is called as Python, which is using here, is called as reference semantics. So the references are made by this equal to sign to the variable by using the data that has been assigned. So we cannot use Python variables without assigning a variable. What does that mean? If you are writing A directly without any assigning a value, that is not a valid statement. Look at the example ahead, right? So take an example here first. What I mean to say, suppose I write down a variable B here. Now I'm not assigning any value to that, and let ask the Python to run it. So what it shows, trace back most recent call last, file, line 1 in module, name error. Look at this statement, name B is not defined, right? So whenever we declare any variable, declaration means whenever we write down any variable, some value should be assigned to that, right? If we don't assign any value, error will be coming. Okay, now let's proceed to the next, assigning a different values to variable. If we try to use a variable without assigning any value to them, Python interpreter shows error like name dash 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 is not defined. Just now we have seen. So let's take an example here. I have used a variable mountain and I have not assigned any value to that variable. So what is the error message I am getting? Error message I am getting is name mountain is not defined, right? Let's proceed. Now assignments of variable. Assignment of variable. Python variable do not need explicit declaration to reserve memory space. Now what does that mean? When we declare int a, float b, right? Such type of declaration is allowed in C or C++. That is, whenever we assign any value to a variable, we have to declare that variable first in C or C++. And whenever we declare any variable int a, that requires a 2 bytes of memory space to be allocated to that particular variable a if it is declared is as int. Similarly, if you are writing float b in C or C++, that require 4 bytes of memory to be allocated initially, right, for the particular variable. Now that does not require in Python. So Python does not use any reserve or does not reserve any memory space whenever we do the declaration, right? So declaration happens automatically when you assign a value to a variable. What does that mean? Whenever we assign any value to a variable, at that time only the memory space get allocated depending upon the data which is assigned to that particular variable, right? Okay, so the equal to sign is used to assign values to the variable, and the operand to the left of the equal to operator is the name of the variable, right? And the operand to the or the expression to the right of the equal to operator is the value which is stored in the variable, right? So what does that mean? So whenever I write down a equals to 3, what does that mean to you? 3 is a value which is assigned to the variable a by the help of this assignment operator, right? So wherever I write down this 3 is equals to a, at that time only the memory space get allocated. Whereas in C or C++, I will have to write down these statements like this INTA, whereas in Python we do not require this. Okay, so let's proceed. Any doubt over this? You can put your comment if any doubts in the comment box. Now let's see how does the assignment of variables is allowed in Python, or how do we differentiate the different types of assignments in the of the variables in the Python. Suppose I am assigning a value 100 to a marks, right? What is a 100? 100 is an integer type of variable, right? So 100 is assigned to a marks. Now if I try to print, what I will use? Print marks. What it prints? Prints 100, right? Now I wanted to assign a floating point number, a float value. I am declaring another variable SGPA, that is semester grade point average. Now 8.55 is assigned to a SGPA. Now in the next line I am using print SGPA. What will be the output? It will print 8.55. Now let's see how we can assign a string. String is a character array that you have already seen in the C or C++. Whenever one or more characters are joined together, it is called as a string. So j is assigned to a new variable name, and in the next line I am assigning, I am trying to print that using a print statement, right? So what will be the output I am getting? It will print a name, right? So output of the above code will be 100, 8.55 and j. Let's demonstrate it. What is the first I am writing? I have the two ways in which I can run the Python. This is called as a command line or whenever we write down the statement in the next line, it will be executed immediately. And what is the another mode I have told you in the last time? It is a scripting mode. Scripting modes allows us to write down all the statements together and then execute at once. So I'm using the scripting mode. And how do you open the scripting mode? Go to the file, write down the, click on the new file, and it will allow you to open the script mode or the normal mode, right? So I'm writing the statements now here. Marks equals to 100, right? Then I'm writing print marks. Now I'm writing SGPA equals to 8.55. On the next line, I'm writing print 8.55. On the next line, I'm assigning a character array, that is here string JAY to a variable name. Then I'm in the next line, I am printing that. Sorry. Now, before you run this by using a run command, how many options are here? Three options. One is there is called as Python shell. Whenever I click on the Python shell, I will go back to this Python shell. This is a scripting mode. Before we run this, what it will pop up? It will pop up that source must be saved. So, sorry. Source must be saved. Click OK to save. First, I will have to save it. I'm using some name. Suppose I'm using the name 1, and by default it will be saved with the extension name.py, right? Now look at here. The Python file is now saved as name.py. Look at here. C colon Python 34 is the folder in which this file is saved, name1.py. Now I can run now. Shortcut for running is F5. Okay. See here. 100, 8.55 and J is appearing on the Python shell. So output by default will be displayed in the Python shell, and you can run the whole program once it is written in the scripting mode, right? You have to save and output will appear in the Python shell. Okay. So let's proceed. Now, whether the multiple assignments of variables is allowed in Python? Yes. At a one stroke, you can assign a one value to a different variables, right? Such as, look at an example here. I have declared city1, city2 and city3, and equal to operator, that is assignment operator, is here in between, and the same name Vasai is allocated to these three variables, right? Correct. So what will be the output if I try to print for these three variables? It will be same, that is Vasai. Now let's proceed. Here an integer object is created with the value 100. I have not declared here as integer. In fact, I have declared here is as string. But if you declare an integer object, all the three variables are references to the same memory location. And this is called an example of chained assignment. I have used the string, but you can do it for the integer also. Okay. Now let's proceed. Whether different type of assignment is allowed? Yes, different type of assignment is allowed in a single stroke to the different variables. Look at an example here. Multiple assignments of variable. We can also assign multiple objects to multiple variables. This is called as multiple assignment. I have declared here data1, data2 and data3. Equal to operator is used here, which is equals to 10 comma 3.5 comma Vasai. 10 is which type of object? It is an integer object. 3.5 is a float type of object, and Vasai is an string object. So here integer object with 10 value is assigned to a variable data1. The float object with value 3.5 is assigned to a variable data2, and the string object with the value versa is assigned to the variable data3. So this is called as multiple assignment of variable having the multiple types of data type. Okay. Now let's proceed to the data types in Python. Now, which are the commonly used data types in Python are called as numbers, string, list, tuple, and dictionary. In today's session, we will be discussing only on the numbers and the strings. In the next session, which will be taken by Raut ma'am, in that session we will be discussing about the list, tuple, and dictionary in detail. Okay, so let's proceed. What are the different data types in Python? First, I have declared it as numbers. So what could be the numbers? Numbers will be the integers, numbers will be the fractions, numbers will be the real numbers, numbers may be the complex numbers, right? So I have collectively called it as numbers. So first we will focus it on the integers, right? So how does the Python allows the addition of the integers? If we add the 5 plus 5, I have used here command line, that is a GUI assignment. So 5 plus 5 is equals to 10. Immediately on the next line I am getting the answer. I am not using any variable. On the next line I am immediately getting the answer. 2 multiplied by bracket here I used, that is a 5 plus 3 will be executed first as it is used in the parenthesis, and there it will be multiplied with the 2. So answer I am getting here is as 16. Now I am using here division. So 20 by 2 should be coming as a 10, but by default whenever we use a division, the output of the division will always be a float. It is the convention in Python. Whenever we divide some number by another number, float will be displayed by the Python, even though the output may be in the integer, but it will be displayed as float. Now look at how does the minus sign is allowed. If I declared a minus 5, output will be minus 5. Look at how the multiplication and the addition of the different parentheses is done. In the first parenthesis, minus 5 plus 2 multiplied by, in the another parenthesis, minus 2. So as per the associative order, these parentheses will be operated first, that is minus 5 plus 2, that is coming minus 3, multiplied by, in these parentheses what is the value, minus 2. So this minus 3 multiplied by minus 2 will come out to be 6. So let's demonstrate. So I will demonstrate it by using a Python shell, no need of a script mode, right? So how do we start? Three greater than symbols is the way to identify whether we are in a Python shell or we are in the scripting mode. So 5 plus 5, immediately I am getting the answer as 10. So 2 into 5 plus 3, right? What is the output I am getting? 16. Now let's see. I am taking another example. Suppose 100 divided by 10. What should be the output? It should be the 10. But how the Python will show? Python will show as 10.0. Okay. Now let's see another example. Minus 5 plus 5 multiplied by, in another bracket, minus 5. What should be the value I am getting? As the minus 5 plus 5 is 0. Answer I should get it at 0. Okay. So in this way, the multiplication, addition, subtraction is done in the Python. Okay. So let's proceed. So this was about the integers. Now let's discuss about the float. As I told you just now, that whenever we divide two numbers, answer will be always in float. Even if it is coming in integer, it will be declared with a decimal number, right? So let's see. 5 by 4 will come out to be 1.25. 1.2500. If I declare on the next line, it will be displayed as 1.25. Now let's multiply float by an integer. What will be the output? Always it will be a float. Even if answer may be coming in the integer, right? It will be declared as float, as the one of the operand is float. Now let's add integer with a float. What will be the output? Float. Okay, let's demonstrate. Again, I'm using a Python shell here instead of the Python script. Suppose I multiply 10.0 with a 10, right? So that is a float is multiplied with the integer, right? What should be the output? 100.0. In conventional regular our regular mathematics that we don't write down 100.0, we write down 100, but the Python shows is at 100.0. Okay, so in this way the floats are operated in the Python. So let's proceed. Now the exponential means power, right? So if we wanted to get a power of some variable, so how we can write? So for that you have to use the two asterisks, that is 2 raised to 3. So how we can write down the 2 raised to 3? 2 star star 3. So what does that mean to Python? I have raised the power of 2 to the 3 and the answer will be 8. Similarly, I have taken here cube. So if I wanted to take a square root, so what is the method? Suppose I wanted to take the square root of the 25. It will be 25 star star, and as I wanted to take the square root, what I will write down in the parenthesis? 1 by 2, right? If I want to take the cube root, what I will have to write down in the parenthesis? 1 by 3. If I wanted to take the fourth root, I will have to write down 1 by 4. Okay, now this is a another type of division which is called as a floor division. So what is the meaning of floor division? If I divide the 10 by 4, right? So whenever I divide the 10 by 4, right, what will be the answer? 2. How does that answer 2 I am getting? Answer 2 is nothing but it is the quotient I am getting here. 10 by 2, 10 by 4, quotient will be 2 and the remainder will be 2, right? So floor division allows us to get the quotient here. Okay, and whereas modulo operator, if we use, it allows us to get the remainder. Okay, so 10 by 10 divided by 4, and if you have wanted to get what is the remainder that is remaining, so with the help of the modulo operator, that is the percentage sign, I am getting the what is the remainder. And if I wanted to get the quotient, I will have to use the double slash, right? And that will get the quotient. So let's demonstrate. I'm using the Python shell. Hmm? Let's take the power of the 2 to the 4. Okay, so what is the answer I'm getting? 16. Now take the cube root of 1000, right? So what I have written? 1000 star star 1 by 3. Okay, I have written in the parenthesis 1 by 3. What I'm getting? 9.999, right? Okay, so actually it should get it as 10, as 10 raised to 3 is 1000. But Python has not declared it as 10, but it had declared it as 9.999 because it does not have that particular capability. You have to use the different types of mathematical libraries to get these functions to be done. Now let's use some modulo operator. Suppose 10, 10 divided by 5. This is the modulo operator I am using. What will be the quotient in this case? Quotient in this case will be 2, right? And suppose I wanted to get what is the remainder in this case. 10 divided by 5. What should be the remainder? Remainder should be 0, right? So see, the remainder is 0. Okay, hope you are getting. Yeah, yes. So let's proceed. So we understood how to get the power, how to get the roots, that is square, cube, and so on, how to get the float division to get the quotient, and how to get the remainder by using a modulo operator. Let's proceed. How does the strings are used in the Python? So in Python, when a text is used, strings are used. And how do we create a strings? A string is created by entering a text between two single or double quotation marks, right? Generally, single quotes are used by Python console to display the string, right? Whenever we declare the Python string, even if it is by using the double quotes or single quotes, generally the Python console will print or display by using the single quotes. And delimiter used for a string does not affect how it behaves in any way. Now, what do you mean by delimiter? I will explain later, right? So first, if I put the Python is easy in the double quotes in the Python shell, and if I press enter, what I will get as an output in the single quotes, Python is easy. So let's demonstrate in the Python shell. I'm writing here Python is easy. Okay. So what I will get an output? I will get the same output, but I have put in the double quotes. I'm getting displayed in the single quotes. That's the way Python generally shows. That is not exclusive. Okay. So let's proceed. Now, what are the different constraints using the strings? Few characters cannot be directly included in the strings. We will see what are those different characters. So double quotes cannot be directly included in the double quote strings. Now what will happen if we include the double quotes in the double quoted string? Premature termination of the string will occur, right? So what is the option for that? You can place a backslash to be included in the characters before that if you want the double quotes to be inserted. I will explain you. Now characters that must be escapes are new lines and the backlashes. That is, whenever we are using the new lines and the backlashes, we have to use the escape sequences. I will explain you this. Single quotes only need to be escaped in a single quote strings. So what does that mean? Right? Let's an example see here. Suppose I wanted to display like this. He is a studious. So if I wanted to display this data, I will have to include? I will have to include the backlash operator. Right? Backlash is to be inserted before the quote. Right? If I don't include this, what I will get? I will get an error. Or why I will get an error? Because I have used the double quotes here. If I am using a single quotes for the string, the whatever is ahead of this will not getting an output, right? So Python provides an easy way to avoid manually writing backslash n to escape the new lines in a string. Take an example here. I have written the triple quotes here. Hmm. Good morning. Welcome to the new session. Look at carefully. After the good morning, I have pressed enter. Right? We have already studied this type in the comments. That is a triple quotes. Welcome to the new session. Again, I am pressed enter here. And on the next line, I have written today we will learn Python in detail. Now, what is the output that I will get? As generally the Python shows in a single quotes, good morning is displayed. After the full stop, what is displayed here? Backslash n, right? Why the backslash n is displayed? Because I have pressed the enter after the good morning, right? And it will display welcome to the new session. Again, a backslash n is displayed, right? Why the backslash n is displayed? Because after the new session, I have pressed the enter and it will display the remaining statement, right? Now, as you can see here, welcome to the new session is appearing on the next line, but it is the output which is displayed on the next line, but there is no enter button. I have not entered after the new, although the session appears on the next. next line in the output, I have not pressed the enter after the new. That's why Python has not shown the backslash n after the new, right? It has displayed the output just on the next line. Okay, so let's demonstrate this using the Python shell. I will close this and start this again. Python shell. Okay. Okay. Now, first we will demonstrate whether the double quotes are allowed in the double quotes. Python is fun. Okay. What I used here? Double quotes are inserted in the double quotes. Now let's. What is the output? What is the output I'm getting? Syntax error. Why the syntax error is getting? Because I have inserted a double quote in between the double quotes. Now what is the option? I will have to write down Python is, I will have to use a escape character, that is backslash. Then I will have to use a again. Then it is showing. Let's see here. Python is backslash double quotes fun double quote. What is it shows? Python is fun. And as you can see, after the backlash, I use the double quotes and double quotes are appearing directly. Right. Similarly, if I am writing here Python isn't fun, right? So what it will show? It will show because I am using a single quote between the double quotes, right? But if I am using it like this, Python isn't fun, it will cause an syntax error or the invalid syntax. Why? Because I have used the single quotes in the single quotes, right? Now what is the option here? Use Python isn't before the single quotes, I will have to use a escape sequence, that is backlash, and then I will be able to display, right? Now I have used here a single quotes, output I'm getting in a double quotes, right? That's the way the Python displays it. Okay, somebody has a question comment that, sir, for the next session can you use the IDE for execution like Visual Studio Code or Atom? Okay, we will try. So in this way, the Python uses the escape sequences to declare the different characters. Now let's see what is the effect of the comments, backslash or the different other type of operators. If I declare it as backslash t, what is the output I'm getting? The backslash t is directly displayed here. This is a no effect. Okay. So similarly, if I write down here as, why the error I'm getting? Because every statement after the string should be end with a double quotes. Okay. So proceed. Can we proceed? Okay. Okay. Some are saying that it is unable to see. That's why I have included all those things in the PPT also. Okay. 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 We'll proceed. So just now we have seen what are the different escape sequences we have to use in the Python, right? That is, if I wanted to get the output of he is studious, I will have to use a backlash before that particular character. So similarly, if I want to use any other characters instead of these codes or any other hash, dollar, whatever, what I will have to use backlash, and the backlash allows us to have the those character to be displayed directly. Okay. Now let's proceed to the concatenation of the strings. Now what do you mean by the concatenation? Concatenation means adding. Just like we add the two numbers, that is called as addition. Whereas whenever we add two strings, that is called as concatenation. Very similar to the concepts in the C language. Whereas in the C language, we need to include the string.h header file for the string concatenation, and we will have to explicitly use the different functions for concatenation of the strings. Whereas in the Python, we do not need to use any functions. We can directly add the strings. Now let's proceed to the concatenation of the strings. Process of adding strings in Python as similar to the integers and floats in concatenation. Now let's take an example. Python. I have used here in double quotes. So it is a string. Plus symbol is used for adding. And I am using another string is fun. Now if you see closely, I have kept the one space. That is one white space I have used between these double quotes and the is. So whenever these two strings are combined on the next line as the output, what I will see? I will see a space. Now, if I don't keep a space here after the double quotes for the second string, this is will be combined with the Python, right? That is combined with the previous word. And what I will see? Python is or Python is. Instead of Python is, I will see it as Python is one, right? Are you getting? So if I wanted to add the two strings, you will have to insert the proper white spaces so that output that you see is clear. Okay, let's proceed. Now if I'm trying to use the print and the strings together, what I will have to use? I will have to use the parenthesis. Yes, somebody has asked a question whether the concatenate means to add or the join two strings. Yes, concatenate means to join or the add two strings. Yes. Now let's see here. Print in the parenthesis. What is written here? Single quote C plus in the single quotes. These are the double quotes. Double quote C plus double quotes comma plus in the double quotes Python. Now as you can see here, after the C character I have not used any space. I have used a plus symbol between these two characters. In this double quotes I have used only a one comma. There is no space before or after. Again a plus symbol here, and then in double quotes I have used the Python. Again there is no space before the Python. So what will be the output of this? C, that is displayed here, comma immediately after the C, and after the comma immediately after this I am getting the Python. So what is the output? C comma Python. Okay, so this is the effect of concatenation of the string. Okay, now let's see whether we can as we can add the strings, we will see some of the other types in which the integers can be added whenever we are inputting those as a string. That is, although they are integers, but I am inputting those as a string. So what is the effect? Let's say, sorry, numbers if indicated as string, they are added as strings rather than integers or floats. I have given an example ahead to understand it better. Numbers if indicated as strings, they are added as strings rather than integer or float. Take an example here. 5 is included in the double quotes. So for the Python, it is not a integer, it is a string. Similarly, 10 here is included in the double quotes. Even if I write down in the single quotes, it will be a string. It will not be a integer. So adding numbers to a strings will give out an error even if they are similar, as those are different entities. What did that mean? I cannot add an integer to a string. Okay, so what does that mean? I will show you ahead. So let's add in the double quotes 5, that is a 5 string, and in double quotes 10. What does that mean? This is a one string 5, this is another string 10, is combined together. What is the output I am getting? 510, right? Because in Python, this is not considered as an integer, it is considered as a string. So whatever is there in the double quotes will be get combined with the whatever is there in the double quotes ahead the plus sign. So here it is 5 and here it is 10. So output will be 510 and that is displayed in the single quotes. Now let's try to add 5 with a string, right? That is 10 is a string, 15 is a string, and again 10 is an integer. What is the output I'm getting? Track back most recent call last. This is the way the Python shows. And look at the last line. Unsupported operand type for plus int and the string. This is the way the string is displayed in terms of output, that is str. Okay, so what it shows, we cannot combine the sorry we cannot combine the integers and the strings, right? You can only combine the integers or you can only combine the strings, but there is some another way to tackle this. I will show you it later in the typecast. Okay, so even if you have the strings in the input, how to convert those strings into a number so that we can add those, we will see later on in this. Now, can we multiply the strings just like a integers or the floats? Yes, Python allows us to have the multiplication of the strings. How we can do? Strings can be multiplied by the integers, but strings cannot be multiplied by the float. Remember, strings can be multiplied by integers. Effect of effect of multiplication is repetition of the pattern of the original string, right? So whatever is the original string, it will get repeated after the multiplication. And in any order, the multiplication with integer is possible, but generally strings are first used. What does that mean? If I wanted to multiply, suppose take an example here, Python is a string, is multiplied by the 3 times. Instead of this, you can also write down 3 sorry 3 multiplied by the Python. That is completely valid, but generally the string is placed first and the integer which is to be multiplied to the string is kept second. Now if I try to print in the parenthesis, Python is a string multiplied by 3, right? What is the output I will get? Python, Python, Python. That is a, this string is multiplied by the 3 times. Okay, now let's take an example ahead. Look at the this statement closely. I have used a string here, but if you look at the closely, after this string I have kept one white space, right? And I have used the multiplication by an integer 5. So after displaying for each instance of this 10, there will be a white space will be inserted. Look at this. This is the first instance, white space inserted. Second instance, white space inserted. Third instance, white space inserted. Fourth instance, white space inserted. And the fifth instance, even after this, one white space inserted. Because while the input is there, I have inserted a white space. Okay. So I have multiplied by the 5. Output is 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And that is displayed as a string. Okay. Input is string, output is also string. Here the double quotes are there. Generally Python shows the single quotes. That's why the output is in single quotes. You may have a question. Although here I use the double quotes for a string, why the output is not displayed in the single quotes? That is in the form of string. As I have used the print function here, by default, whatever is whatever is between the parentheses, it will be displayed as a string, even though it is not showing any single quotes or double quotes in the output. Okay, so can we proceed? Yes, as no comments, I'm proceeding. Now let's try to do the multiplication of the string with the string and the string with the float. Let's see what it shows. Now this is a 10 string multiplied with the 10 string. What is I am getting? Can multiply sequence by a non-int type of string, right? Suppose this is the first instance of a string, and whenever it reaches a star, after that it doesn't find an integer here. That's why it is showing a output as can't multiply a sequence by a non-int type of string. Okay, so it shows what it shows, can multiply sequence by a non-int type of string. Okay, now let's proceed. I think it is less visible. Let's try to multiply the 100 with 100. What? It can't multiply a non-int type by a non-int type. Now let's multiply 100 with a 2. What it shows? 100 appears twice. Okay, in this way the Python uses. Okay, I hope it's clear to you. Now let's proceed to the input output functions. Now before that input output function, let's see the effect of the multiplication of a string with a Python with a float. Now, as I told you earlier, that whenever we wanted to multiply the string by integer, it's completely valid, but you cannot multiply the string by a float. So let's take an example here. So Python is multiplied by a float, right? 2.0. See the output I'm getting. Can multiply sequence by a non-int type of float, right? So float cannot be used to multiply a string, even though it's a uh, even though it's a in conventional case integer, that is 2.0 is can be considered as an integer, but as we have declared it as 2.0, it will be considered as a float, and as a convention in Python it cannot be multiplied with the string. So let's proceed with the input output functions in Python. So as long up till now we have only studied about the what is a print function, right? It displays the data. We will also study whenever we wanted to get an output or a prompt response from the user, how we can do it, right? So first let us understand what is a print function. Program state input and process it to produce a output. Similarly, print function is used in Python to produce a output. So if you closely look at here, the first letter P in the print is small. It is not capitalized, right? So many of the students in the previous lecture quiz has written it as a capital P. Okay, so it's a small p. So let's see the output of the addition of the 5 plus 10 integer. What will be the addition of the 5 plus 10? It will be 15. Now look at the example of the using the escape sequence in the print. Print, the parenthesis I have used here, Python backslash n is fun. Now as long as it comes to the backslash n, what understood to the Python, I wanted to print the whatever is ahead of this backslash n on the next line. That's why whenever the output is there, output will be Python, and on the next line, the next whatever is ahead of that of backslash n will be displayed on the next line. So instead of this backslash n, if I wanted to display a tab, that is by a tab is to be placed. What I will write here, Python \t is fun. If I wanted to include some another letters, I can also include some another letters here. So what it will be, Python \t is fun. Okay, so let's proceed. Now whenever I wanted to create a input from the user, what I will have to use, I will have to use the input function. Whereas in the C it is a scanf to be used, and along with the scanf I will have to mention what is that particular type of data. So based on that particular type of data I will have to use %d for int, %c for character, %f for float, %s for string. So these are the different statements I will have to write down in the scanf for acceptance. As well as after that I will have to use the symbol and, which is called as ampersand, in the scanf statement. Whereas in the Python we do not have to use all these symbols. Python directly takes the input from the user, whatever is the type of data the user wants to input. So let's demonstrate. So first understand this, then we will demonstrate it. So I have declared the function here input, and I wanted to get the input from the user based on the statements which are written here. So please enter your course name, right? So whenever I wanted to get the input from the user, first whatever is between these parentheses will get displayed, and ahead of that what I am displaying, Python is entered, right? So on the next line, what I will see the output, Python is entered. As what is the input response from the user, Python is entered, right? So this is the input response from the user. So what is the output I am getting, Python is entered, right? Okay, so in this way we can use the input output functions. So let's demonstrate it. I know some of you may not be able to display it, uh, but there is no zooming option here. Okay, so let's take an input. I am writing here input something. So what it will show? See on the next line, I'm getting input something. Suppose I am inputting it as 10. So what should be the output I am getting? 10, right? Correct. So here the 10 is declared in the 10 is declared as input, and output I'm getting is as 10. You may have a doubt whether the output displayed is string, output display type is integer, character, or string, right? As it is displayed in the single quotes, but consider it as a, although it is displaying it is in quotes, but it is a number. Don't consider it as a string. Okay. So in this way, the Python uses the input function. Let's proceed. Now, what are the type conversions in Python? So the conversion allows us to have the strings to be converted into a integer or character for the addition or multiplication of the, or even subtraction of the strings. But generally we don't do the subtraction. We do only perform a addition or the multiplication of the strings. So type conversion allows us to convert the string into the integer or floats. So let's see how. Due to the types involvement, it's possible. Due to the types involvement, it is impossible to convert certain operations in Python. But how you can do it? You can't add two strings containing numbers 5 and 10 together to produce an integer 15. What will be the result? If we add a string of 5 to the 10, output is 510 that we have seen earlier. Now, type conversion allows to add two strings, converted them to int, then add. Take an example ahead. 5 is a string here, 10 is again a string here. What is the output? 510. Now I have used here int, then in the parenthesis I am using here as 5 plus int, in parenthesis I am using here 10. So this is called as a typecast or conversion of one type into the another. What is the conversion used here? String of 5 is converted into an integer here, right? Similarly here string of 10 is converted into an integer. So what will be the output? 5 plus 10, it will be 15. Okay. Now to convergence allows, type conversion allows output to be converted from a string to numbers even for calculations. Let's see what is used here, float. So whatever is input between the parentheses from the user will be converted to the float, right? First, then it will be used for the operation. So let's see the statement. Float in parenthesis input in parenthesis, here the string is used for the response from the user. What is the written here? Enter first number, parentheses are closed, plus again a float is used, in parenthesis what is used, input, and the prompt response is required from the user for entering the second number. So what is the output I am getting? Enter first number, and it will prompt from the user, or it will be waiting for the input from the user. Once I press enter, I have entered here as 10. Then on the next line it will prompt for a second input. What is the second input here? Statement here is enter second number, right? Second number here is entered as 15. Now although I have entered here as 10 integer, but I have used a float outside the input function, so the this 10 will be first converted into the float, right? Then similarly plus symbol will be there. After that again second integer is there, and second input function is there. I have inputted as integer 15, but it will be converted to a float. So 10.0 plus 15.0, the output will be the 25.0. That is, output will be a float. Okay. So in this way, the type convergence in Python is done. Okay. So let's proceed to the operators in Python. In Python, there are in place operators. So what is the use of these in place operators? In place operators allows to have the reduction in the code or reduction in the size of the program by performing the same functions, such as, look at it, these operators to allows the to code to write like a is equals to a plus 10. What is the meaning of this? Whatever is the value here, suppose a value is 5 earlier, and if I add a 10 to it, what will be the recent value of a? That will be 15. So these statements can be combined it like this: a plus equals to 10. What does that mean to Python? The meaning of that will be a is equals to a plus 10. So instead of this plus, we can also use the minus operator, we can use the division operator, we can use the multiplication, that is asterisk, we can use the division, that is percent symbol, and can be used in the same way. That is, we can perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division in the same way. Okay. So let's demonstrate. First look at the example here. A is equals to 10, and if I try to print a, output is 10. Now what is the value of a now? Value of a is 10. Now instead of a is equals to a plus 10, what I have written here, a plus equals to 5. What does that mean? A is equals to a plus 5, right? This statement means a is equals to a plus 5. So output will be 15 because the earlier value of a was 10, and I am adding the a with the phi, and that is I am storing in the a, right? So a is added with the phi and it is stored again in a. So the output I am getting is as 15. Okay. So this is the use of the in place operators. Now in place operators with the string. Now the Python doesn't support the character operators such as plus plus or the minus minus, right, which are completely valid in the C or C++ language. That is, these are called as a post increments operator or the pre increment operators, right? But these are not valid in the Python. Generally these pre increment and the post increments are used with the loops in C or C++. Now let's how we can use the in place operator with the Python. Suppose Python is assigned to a name, right, and we display the name by using the print function. What will be the output? Output will be the Python because it is stored in the name, right? Now I wanted to add is fun to the name. How I will write? I will have to write down in conventional way. Name is equals to name plus this string. But with the help of in place operator, what I have written? Name plus equals to this string. So what will be the answer or output? If I try to print, answer will be Python is fun. And if you look closely in the second string, I have used here a white space. That's why the Python and is not combined, right? The space is displayed here. So we'll have to take care of the output before you write down any code. Okay. Now what are the different operators that are supported in Python? So we have already seen exponential. Now this also shows what is the order in which the operations will be performed. Sorry. Exponential, which is used by using a double asterisk, has the highest order. Then complement, unary plus or unary minus. This is having this further precedence. Then multiply, division. This is a modulo operator or the floor division. It comes after the complement. Then addition subtraction comes. Then this is called as a right and left bitwise shift. We will be studying about the bitwise operator ahead. Then this is called as a bitwise and this is called as a bitwise exclusive or this is called as a bitwise or this you will be this you can see on the computer on the left side of the enter button just below the parenthesis square parenthesis or the curly brace. Then these are the some operators which are valid in Python. In, although I have written here is capital in, but it should be a small in. Then not in, is not, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. This is a not equal to, or this is called as a comparator, or these operators are called as comparison operators, equality operator. This equal to sign is called as equality operator. Then membership and identity operators. So this will have a precedence after the bitwise and or symbols, and after that not is having the precedence, then and is in the precedence, then in the or, and last is the assignment operators. So this will have the list precedence. So whenever you are using any operations, right, involving the operators, we will have to remember this operator precedence while writing the code. Otherwise it may turn out to be a different output than is it is desired. Okay. Just like in mathematics, whenever we wanted to do the multiplication and addition together, whatever is there multiplication of the two operands, it will be performed first, then the addition will take place. Similarly, you will have to take care of these operators. Now let's understand what are the booleans in Python. Now there are two different types of booleans in Python. One which is called as a true and another is called as a false. Now as I have indicated here, T is capital and the F is capital. Remember, this is not a small scale letters. So they can be created by comparing the values by using as equal operator, right? So equal operator is used to verify whether the particular statement is true or false. Let's see an example. Suppose there is a one variable which is declared as my underscore Python and the true value is assigned to that variable. Now if I try to print, right? I am not using the print function here, but just directly enter the my underscore Python. What is the output I'm getting? True, because true was the value which was assigned to the my Python. So whenever I wanted to get the display, it will display the true. Now let's compare whether phi equals to 2 or the comparison is takes place. So this is a comparison operator or the equality operator. Whether the phi equals 10, false. So what is the output I'm getting? False, right? So in this way the booleans operate, right? Now let's check it with the strings. Whether we wanted to compare those two strings, high in the double quotes is compared with the high in the another double quotes. As the both the strings completely same, what will be the output? True. Okay. So in this way the booleans work. Okay. Let's proceed. Okay. Now take a look at the not equal to operator, right? So not equal to operator will return true or false depending on the case. Take an example here. Phi not equal to phi. Whether it's true or false, it's false because phi is equals to phi. That's why whenever I'm writing phi not equal to phi, it will be considered as false. Okay. Now let's check with another example. Let's compare whether phi, here I have used the string phi not equal to 4. It's true because FIVE is not equal to FOU4, right? Here the strings are compared and in the above statement the numbers are compared, right? So as the phi is not equal to 4, answer will be the true. And in the above statement, I have used phi not equal to phi. In actual real case, phi is equals to phi. So answer will be of phi equals to phi will be true. But as I am using not equal to, answer will be the false. Okay. So in this way the booleans operate whenever we are using the not equal to operator. Let's understand the less than or greater than operator. In this case, Python allows operators that determine whether one number is either it is integer or float type is greater than or smaller than the another number. Right? The comparison will take place between the integer or float. So let's see whether the 10 is greater than 10. No, 10 is equals to 10. So 10 greater than 10 will turn out to be a false statement. Right? So the answer I'm getting it as false. Now let's compare 5 with the 10. So whether the phi is less than 10? Yes, phi is less than 10. So the output I'm getting it as true. Okay. So in this way, comparison operator that is less than or greater than will work. Now let's see whether the less than or greater than will work in the same way or not. Now here I have used a integer and the float together. So whether the phi is greater than equals to 5.0, now in the conventional sequence 5.0 and the phi are same. Now how does the Python treats them? Let's see. Whether the phi is greater than equals to 5.0? Yes. Python has converted this 5.0 to phi and then it is compared, right? So I have used both the symbols greater than or equal to. So first it will check greater than. If it is greater than, it will turn out to be false or true, depend. And it will check again with the whether the both the numbers are equal. So here it checked that both the numbers are equal, so it is written as true. Now I have purposely used here as a space between the less than symbol and the equal to show you that if you keep a space between the less than or greater than symbol, it will turn out to be an invalid syntax. So if I am using here 5 less than space equals to 10. So it will turn out as an invalid syntax because there is a space between the less than symbol and the equal to symbol. Same statement I have written again. Sorry. 5 less than or equals to 10, right? As always, 5 will be less than 10. Answer will turn out to be true. So these are the different operators in the booleans. Now let's see some of the control statements which are supported by the Python. Now control statements allows us to control the code which is written ahead, right? Suppose we wanted to have the repetition of the code or some of the code to be run based on the conditions mentioned in the code, we have to use the different control statements. So Python supports if statement, while statement, for statement, then the range function, then continue statement. What is the purpose of the continue statement? It returns the control to the beginning of the loop, right? So whenever we use a continue in between the our code, it will return the statement of the code to the first statement or the beginning of the loop. Now we can also use the break statement. It will bring the control out of the loop, right? Then look at the pass statement. We use the pass statement to write down the empty loop. So pass is also used for empty control statement, and it is used with the functions and classes. Now let's see in detail with this. First we will go to the if statement, okay? Then we will see the while and for, and we will use this combine and break together with this while and for to understand it better, okay? So this is the flowchart for the if statement. What is shown here? Initialization, then next is the condition. Now whatever is the statement, if the condition is true, whatever is the sequence of the statements following the statement inside the code, this code will run and will come back to the initialized state. Now if the condition check is false, then end of loop will occur. I'm repeating again. Initializing of the loop will take place. That is, whatever is written after the if, then after the if statement, if the condition is turn out to be true, then the statements following the if in the loop will be executed. If the condition is comes out to be false, then the end of loop will occur. Okay. This I have extracted from the net, so I have written the source. Now let's see how it works. Now in the if statement, how does the syntax will look like? See, in the if expression, I will have to write down the if first, then I will have to write down the expression that is to be checked, then I will have to use the colon, then the following is the statements. And in Python, indentation is mandatory, without which the program won't work. Now you don't have to insert the indentation. Indentation will be inserted by the Python by default. Look at how. So this is a statement I have written in the Python script mode. If 5 is less than 10, then colon is used. And if I press a enter, after the enter, this print I am using, that is I wanted to write down print 5 is less than 10. But this print command, whatever I am writing, will not start from the first first character which will be appearing on the next line, but a tab is inserted or the indentation is inserted by default by the Python, right? And in this way the if statement will work. And on the next line, if I write down the print program ends. As here in this statement, only the one condition is written. What is the condition written? If phi is less than 10. Now I is as the phi is always less than 10, this condition will turn out to be true. Then the next line of statement is will be executed. What it will be executing? Whatever is written in the print, that is phi is less than 10 will be printed as it is written in the parenthesis, and on the next line print program ends, it will be displayed. Okay, so in this way the if statement will work. Now let's take a look at the nested if statement. Now following is the example of nested if, that is if inside the if statement, that is if the one condition is true, then the next line of code is executed. If the next line of code is true, then the next condition is executed. This is called as a nested if. Okay, so let's take an example. Number is equals to 15. Now what is next written? If number greater than 10, I have used a colon here. Then on the next line, by default by the Python, indentation is inserted, and in the print what is displayed? Number is greater than 10. Now the condition is checked. What is the number? Number is 15. Now the condition is checked. If 15 is greater than 10, S, then print larger than 10. Then again another if is used. So again a condition is checked. Number, what is number? Number is 15. So 15 is less than or equals to 20. Yes, so answer of this statement will be true. So again, and whatever is the following statement ahead of the if will be executed. I have used here a printf statement, or the I wanted to get the display as number is between the 10 and 20, right? So I'm getting the output in this case will be, as this statement turn out to be true, larger than 10 will be displayed. Again, this statement will be also turn out to be true. This statement will also be displayed. So I'm getting the output as larger than 10, and on the next line I'm getting the output as number is between 10 and 20. In this way the nested if will work. Okay, so we will proceed with the ahead, that is sometimes we use a if and else statements in the code. So let's introduce with the if else statement. So an else statement follows an if statement and contains code that is called when the if statement evaluates to false, right? Take an example here. So what I told here, else statement follows an if statement and contains a code, and that is called when the if statement evaluates to false. That is whenever the condition which is following the if statement it turns out to be false, then the else will be executed. Let's take an example here. A 15 is assigned to a number, right? Look at the next code. If number is equals to 10, now the number is 15, right? 15 is equals to 10. 15 is compared with the 10. No, right? So the code which is following this statement will not get executed, whereas it will come to the else and it will check whatever is following is there or not. As after the else I have not checked the condition again, what it will print? It will print whatever is following. So it will print the no, right? So in this way, if else statements are executed, I will repeat again. 15 is assigned to a number, then 15 if number is equals to 10, as 15 is not equals to 10, this code will result in a false statement. So it will come to the else, and whatever is following the else it will try to execute, right? As after the else only the one statement is following, print no. So that's why the output of the above code is No. Okay. Any doubts over this? As the no comments, I am proceeding. Now, you can have the chaining of the if-else statement, which is called as a nested if-else. Let's see how it is evaluated. Let's look at the first. Suppose this is the first test expression. Then, if this is the first if statement, then based on the first if statement, if it turns out to be true, then whatever is the body of the if will be evaluated. Then, after that body of the if is evaluated, statement just below the if will be executed. Right now, if the after the text expression the condition is checked, whether the condition if it turns out to be false, then the next test nested text expression which is written is evaluated. And in the nested text expression, if it turns out to be true, then the body of the nested if will be evaluated, right? And it will be following with the statements which are following ahead. Now, in some cases, nested test expression may turn out to be false. Then the body of the nested else which will be following this if statement will get executed, and then statements which are after the else will be getting executed. So this is the flowchart for the nested if else. I will repeat. This is the first test expression if statement. If it turns out to be true, then the body of if will get executed. If it turns out to be false, then the nested text expression will be executed. Again, in the nested text expression, if the value turns out to be true, then the body of the nested if is executed. Otherwise, if the expression is false, the body of the nested else will be executed. Let's take an example over this. Nested if else example. A chain of if else statement can be used to check a series of the possibilities. I'm taking a similar example. A 15 is assigned to a number. Now check. On the next line I have written if number equals 10, comparative statement I am using. 15 equals to 10. No, 15 is not equals to 10, right? So it will come out of the loop of the if and it will proceed to the else. Now in the else statement, another condition is used, right? What is the another condition? If number equals 12, no, as the 15 is not equals to 12, it will come out of the loop. That is, it will not execute the statements which are following the condition. This is also false and the previous condition is also false. So that's why we don't get the output as number is 10 or the number is 12. So after this statement, it will check whether there is a else or not. Yes, there is another else. Look at carefully. After this if indentation is there, else is following this if. After this else, indentation is there for this if. This condition turns out to be false. Then this else be following on the same if. That is on the same line. No, again, there is another if. Here, the condition is checked. Okay, what is the condition here? If the number is equals to 11, as the 15 is not equals to 11, again, this code which is following this if will not get executed. Again, it will search for if there is any another else or not, right? Yes, there is another else. Now, this statement is evaluated because after this else, no condition is written, right? So, whatever is the statement following this else will be displayed. Number isn't 10, 12 or 11, right? So number isn't 10, 12 or 11 is displayed by this code. So this is the purpose of the nested if else statement. Okay. Any doubts over this? Okay. So we will proceed. So sometimes instead of the nested if else, there is a So elif is a shortcut for else if. The elif statement or short of else if is a shortcut to use when chaining if and else statements. A series of if elif statements can have a final else block which is called if none of the if or elif expression turn out to be true. That is, whenever we are using a if and elif together, a final else we will have which will get executed if none of the above expression following the if and elif will turn out to be true. Let's take an example. So this is a syntax which I have extracted from python.org. So x is equals to int input. Please enter an integer. So input is asked from the user. Please enter an integer. 42 is taken as an integer input. Now see the statements ahead. If x less than 0, right? What is the value of x now? X is 42, right? If 42 less than 0, no, right? So this the code which is following this colon will not get executed. So these two statements will not get executed. So it will proceed to the elif. If x equals to 0, no, as the 42 is not equals to 0, so this code will also not get executed. Then it will go to here. If x is equals to 1, no, as again 42 is not equals to 1, so this also will not get executed. And finally it will search for the else, right? And this will get printed based on the input if there are no conditions satisfied here ahead. As all of this x less than 0, elif x equals to 0, x equals 1 are false, this else will get executed. Okay, so we will proceed. So let's take an example on the elif. I will take the similar example that we have taken earlier. Number 15 is assigned to a number. 15 is assigned to a number variable. If number equals 10, no, 15 is not equals to 10. So statement number is 10 is not printed. It will check for a next condition, elif. So if the elif condition here is number equals 12, no. So what it will execute? It will not execute the statements which are ahead. It will go ahead with another code of statement. It will check a condition here whether number equals 15. Here 15 is equals to 15, and it will then execute the lines of code which are following this statement. Here it will execute this statement as the condition is turned out to be true, and it will display the output as number is 15. Okay, so in the if else statement, if at any point of time if the condition turns out to be true, whatever is the code which is following will not get executed, as after this elif statement number equals to 15, this condition is turn out to be true. That's why the else statement which are followed by this is not get executed and the loop will stop. Now let's take a look at the while statement. Okay, so while statement can run more than once. The statement inside are repeatedly executed as long as the condition holds. Very similar to the C language or C++, where the while loop gets running as long as the condition is holds as true. So once it evaluates to false, the next section of the code is executed, which is not within the while loop. Okay, so loop will continue as long as the condition remains true. So take a very small loop I am using here. Small example. One is assigned to a value I while I is less than equals to 4. Now condition is checked initially whether 1 is less than or equals to 4. Yes, as the 1 is less than or equals to 4, the condition turns out to be true. and the following code gets executed. Print I. Now what is the current value of I here? Initialized value of I here is 1. So 1 will be getting printed. Now on the next line, within the while loop, what is the statement written? I is equals to I plus 1. Now the I is incremented as I is equals to I plus 1. So I value will be now 2, right? Now again the condition is checked whether the 2 is less than or equals to 4. Again the condition is checked. So now the next statement print I. So 2 will be getting displayed, right? As you can see here, 2 will be getting displayed. On the next line, I will be equals to I plus 1, that is I is incremented in this case. So what will be the value of I now? This I will be equals to 2 plus 1, that is I will be 3. Again the condition is checked with a while whether the 3 is less than equals to 4. Yes, 3 is less than equals to 4, that is true. So print 3, right? So 3 is getting displayed. Now the I is incremented again. I is equals to 3 plus 1, that is I is assigned a value 4. Now while 4 is less than equals to 4, yes, the condition is again evaluated as true. Although 4 is not less than 4, but 4 is equals to 4. So this turns out to be true. So print now 4. Now again I is incremented. Now I will be incremented as 4 plus 1. Now I value will be now 5. Now condition is checked whether 5 is less than or equals to 4. No. So now this loop will end as the condition is turned out to be false and it will go out of the loop. Now the statements which are out of the loop of this while will get executed. What is the statement which is written here? Print program ended. So this will get printed. Okay. So while loop will go on continuing as long as the condition remains true. So we will have to check the condition in such a way, or we will have to write down the condition in such a way that it has to be ended some way, otherwise loop will go on continuing. Okay, so let's proceed. If we are using the break statement with a while, how it will get executed? So break statement is used in a while loop to end it prematurely. Let's see how. Let's look at the flowchart here. What does the flowchart tells? This is the start of the loop, start of the while loop. Okay, what is the start of the loop? Condition here is checked whether the condition is true. If the condition is true, following statement is break, right? After the break statement, what is written? No, right? After the statement break, if the break is written, the body of the loop executes statements, right? If the break statement is yes, it will end a loop, right? What does that mean? I will explain you ahead. Why a statement with a break, right? Let's one is assigned to a I. Now a condition is checked whether 1 is equals to 1, yes, then print 1. As the condition turns out to be true, what is executed? As the condition is turned out to be true, following body of the code will be executed. That is if 1 is printed here, that is the current value of I. Now the I value is getting incremented. I is equals to I plus 1. So I will be equals to 1 plus 1, that is I will be 2 now. Now let's see the following code of statement. If 2 is greater than or equals to 4, yes, right? Now the condition is checked here as whether if the 2 is greater than or equals to 4, as the condition turns out to be true, here here it will go to the here and it will print 2, right? Then again the value of I will be incremented. Then I will be now here I is equals to 2 plus 1. I will be 3, right? Then again the condition will be checked whether the 3 is greater than equals to 4. No. Condition is checked here is 3 is not greater than or equals to 4. So again here the loop will come here, whether it will print 3, then condition is checked. Sorry, next line of code will be executed. I is now equals to 3 plus 1, that is 4. Now condition is checked if 4 is greater than or equals to 4. As 4 is not greater than but 4 is equals to 4, print breaking. So it will print the breaking, and on the next line as the break statement is written, it will break the statement and it will come out of the loop and it will print the program ended. Okay, now look at the condition here. Initially, what is the statement written? The statement written here is 1 is equals to 1, right? Here the static statement is written. What do you mean by static statement is written? This loop will continuously will be true as there is no comparison of the current value of I is checked here. So the loop will always be in operation, right? So how it is initialized? While 1 is equals to 1, true, first value of I is printed, then next line is executed, I is equals to I plus 1, that it will not go here immediately, right? It will check whether the 1 is greater than equals to 1. It will not go here. It will first increment with these values first. 1 will be printed, 2 will be printed, 3 will be printed, then I will turn out to be 4, then the condition will be checked whether the 4 is greater than equals to 4, and then the breaking will occur. In this way the break will work with the while. Now let's check how we can use the continue with the break. Now what is the function of the continue statement? A function of continue statement is to jumps back to the top of the loop rather than stopping it. In the previous statement we have seen if 4 greater than equals to 4 is there, it will cause a breaking, right? That is, it will not continue in the loop, but it will cause a break statement to follow, and the loop will end there. But whereas whenever the continue statement is there, instead of breaking, it will continue the loop. Okay, so let's see. 0 is assigned to a I. On the next line, while true, though the what is written here, the list loop will go on continue as long as the true value is there. Now the next line is I is incremented. I value will be now 0 plus 1. So I will be 1. Now the condition is checked. If 1 is equals to 3, false. As the 1 is not equals to 3, again it will come out of the loop. And if you see on the next line, what is written here? Continue. As the continue statement follows this false statement, false result which is turn out, which is an output of this code, so it will come to the initialized value, that is, now it will get increment the value of I. So I will now come to the I will be equals to 1 plus 1, 2. Now again the condition is checked. If 1 is equals to 3, no, it will again continue here, then it will check again here, I value is incremented, I value will be now 3, then again it will check if the 3 is equals to 3, then it will print skipping. Okay, now how it will operate I will explain again. While the condition turns out to be true, so somebody has a doubt, if there are two nested while loops and a break is inside the second, that is in the inner loop, then will it even break out the outer, that is in the first loop? No. If the break is written inside the inner loop, it will take a exit from the inner loop and it will try to execute the statements which are in the outside while loop. And as long as the conditions inside the while loops are true, it will go on running the outside loop. So we will continue with the while. So while is true, right? I is initialized, condition is checked here, then the continue statement is written, then the next condition is checked here. If the 1 is equals to 6, no, here the loop is breaked and it will print the value of 1. Now it will go back to the initial state, I value is incremented, right? Then I value will turn out to be 2. If 2 is equals to 3, it will go on to the continue. Even though the value here turn out to be false, as the continue statement is written here, it will continue. It will check the next condition. If 2 is equals to 6, then as the statement break is written here, this will not get executed breaking and it will print the value of 2. Then it I value is incremented again. I value is now 2 plus 1 is 3. That is, if so, it will now print the skipping 3 and it will continue the loop, right? As the continue statement is written. On the next line, it will check if the 3 is equals to 6. No, it will print a break, right? It will not print a break. In fact, it will go to the break as the condition remains false and it will print the value of 3. Then it will go here. I value is now taken as 4. If it will check if 4 is equals to 3, it is false. It will continue here. If 4 is equals to 6, false. It will come out of this if loop. Then it will print the value of 4. Then it will again increment with the value of I. Then the I value will be now 5. Here if 5 equals to 3, no. It will continue the loop. The condition is checked here. If 5 equals to 6, no. 5 is not equals to 6. So these statements will not follow and 5 will be printed. Again the I will be incremented. So I is now 6. This condition is checked. If 6 equals to 3, no. But after that continue is written. So next code will continue. So if 6 equals to 6, yes. As the 6 equals to 6, this print breaking will be displayed and the loop will end here. And finally the finished will be printed. So in this case, even though the continue is written here, it will not go back to the here, but it will continue the whatever the statements which are following this continue statement, right? So again, I'm just explaining you the only one line here. I value is now 1. 1 is equals to 3. That is false. This body will not get executed, but after this body, continue is written. So after the continue, when we write down in a code, whatever is the code which is following that will get executed instead of going back to the initial line of code. Code following the continue statement will be executed. So here the condition is checked, 1 equals 6, false, and the next line of code which is in the if statement is print. That's why the value of 1 is printed. Okay, and after that I will be incremented. Again the condition checked, that turns out to be false. Continue statement is written. So next line of code gets executed. False here. Following statement will not get executed and the print action will occur and then I increment it. In this way, while with a continue and break will occur. Okay. Any doubt over this? I think no. So we'll proceed. So while loop example I have written. So I have created a one example of a list. You will be discussing with the list tomorrow session. I have assigned the different values hello, Python, Monty and sauce to a variable data. I have declared one variable 0. It is assigned to a count. Then this is a one particular function len. Len is used to calculate what is the length of a particular variable depending upon the element here. How many elements are here? 1, 2, 3 and 4. So len data means what? It will calculate how much is the length of the how many are the variables here, right? As the four variables are here, it will give the output as 4. Len data will give the output as 4, and minus 1 is assigned to a m index 3. So what is the value of m index now? 3, right? Condition written is in the while as while count is less than or equals to m index. Now what is the current value of count? Is 0. What is the current value of m index? Current value of m index is 3. So 0 is less than or equals to 3. Yes, 0 is less than or equals to 3. Go code which is following the while. Data 1 is assigned the value of data count. Now what is the data count? What is the current value of count? Current value of count is 0, right? So data 0. So here the operation very similar to the array is performed. Now in the this is called as a list. So this will be assigned with the index 0. This will be assigned with the index 1. This will be assigned with the index 2. And this will be assigned with the index 3. So whenever I write down data 0, what is the value of data 0? Hello. Hello is assigned to the data 1. And on the next line, what is written? Print in parenthesis data 1 plus exclamation mark, right? On the next line, first it will execute this statement. What is the data 1? Hello. So hello with the parenthesis, hello with the explanation mark is displayed here, and then the count will be incremented. So current value of count is 0. The count will be now 1. Again the condition is checked whether the 1 is less than or equals to m index. M index value is 3. So 1 is less than or equals to 3. Yes. So it will follow the next code. Data will be assigned a value of count. Now the value of count is 1 as the last statement was count equals to count plus 1. So what is the data 1? Data 1 is nothing but a Python. So Python is now assigned to the data 1 variable and print Python plus exclamation mark. So this will be printed. Python 1 will be printed. Okay. Now again count will be incremented. Current value of count will be now 1 plus 1. Count will be 2. So while 2 less than or equals to m index is remaining fixed, that is 3. So 2 is less than or equals to 3. Yes, true. So following statement is executed. What is the current value of count? 2. So what is the variable at the index 2? Index 2 is Monty. So Monty is assigned to the data 1 and it is printed with data 1 plus exclamation mark. So Monty is printed. Now the count is incremented. 2 plus 1 is assigned to a count, that is count will now become 3. So 3 is less than or equals to 3. 3 is equals to 3, right? Not less than. But as the condition remains true, as 3 is equals to 3, it will come ahead. Now what is the current value of count? Count is now 3. What is at the index of 3? Source. So source is assigned to a data 1 and print source plus exclamation mark. So it will now print the source with the exclamation mark. Again it will count. Again the count will be incremented. Now the value of the count will be 3 plus 1. 3 plus 1. Count will be 4. So whether the 4 is less than or equals to 3, false. So the loop will end. Okay, in this way the while loop is executed. Okay, any doubt in the while loop? Okay, so let's proceed to the for loop. For loop is very similar to the C language for loop, but there are some differences in the for loop of the C language. You will have to initialize the some counter, then the condition is checked, and then the counter is incremented. But for in Python is very simple. I am using the same variable data in which the four variables assigned to this data. This is nothing but an example of data type called as list, which will be discussed tomorrow in detail. For data one is the one variable I am using here. Although the data one is not declared earlier, but it's completely valid for checking. So how it's get executed for data one in data, right? What is data? Data is nothing but this list, right? For data one in data, what is checked? Print data one plus exclamation mark. So what it will do? It will go on checking the first value. It will add the exclamation mark. Then the index will get incremented. Initially, zero data zero will get printed. Then in the next line, data value will be treated with the data one. The data one value is here Python. So Python get displayed. In the next line, Monty will get displayed. In the next line, sauce will get displayed. So if you compare the for loop with the while loop, for loop uses only the two lines of code, right? Whereas while loops required one, two, three, four, five, 6 lines of code, right? So this is where the for loop minimizes the code whenever the recursion needs to be takes place. That is, recursion means you have to use the running of the same code again and again. That is called as recursion. Last topic here, arrays in Python. Uh, Arrays in C or C arrays in Python. In Python, there is no explicit declaration is to be done for the declaration of the array. So what can be an array? Look at the example here. Name is a variable I am using. For these names, I am sorry. I am assigning a three different variables Jay, Vijay, and Sanjay. So these names will now store more than one variable, right? Or sorry, more than one type of data, right? So it is called as a character array. Now, whereas in C or C++, we will have to declare with the what type of array it will be, such as int, followed by what type of you will have to declare the name of that particular array. That is, suppose a is the integer array, then you will have to declare what will be the size of the array, right? But in the Python, there is no such thing needs to be done. It will directly store the details of the variable in the variable name. So more than one values can be stored by the variable if it is an array. So if you have a list of items, a list of names of persons I am using here, storing the names of single variables could be like this. Now, if you have wanted to, instead of using this, different variables like this, Jay is assigned to a name 1, Vijay is assigned to a name 2, Sanjay is assigned to a name 3. So three different variables I am using, right, for assignment of the different strings to the different variables. Whereas here I am using a single variable, and in this single variable all this type of data is accommodated. So in this way arrays will work in Python. Now look at the next. However, if you want to loop through the names and find out the specific ones, what if you have not the 3 names but 300? What I mean to say, this method will work if the data is small, but if you wanted to get the data of the 300 400 persons, then declaring the variable each time separately will be a very cumbersome task. So in that case, an array will be a solution. So array can hold many values under the single name, and we can access the values by referring to an index number. Now what is the meaning of index number? By default, very similar to the C language, index number for the first variable will be 0. So this will be the names 0. This will be the index 1. This will be the index 2, right? So we will study ahead how we can find out the value of an array by using an index. So you access the elements of an array. You refer to an array element by referring to the index number. That is, to get an value of an array, you will have to use an index number. Let's see. Get the value of an second array item, right? How many items are here? Three items are there, but it starts with an index 0. So this is 0, 1 and 2, and I wanted to get the second array. So what I will invoke, I will use here names 1. I am using the square bracket, and I am assigning this value to a variable a, and on the next line I am using a print a. So what will be the output? Output will be the vijay, because by indexing, this first variable is indexed with a 0, second variable is indexed with a 1, this is indexed with a 2, and whenever I am writing this variable name with an index, that is 1 in this case, so contains in the inside this index vj will be assigned to a new variable a, and on the next line I am trying to print. Okay, so the output here is vj. Now let's calculate what is the length of an array. So for that, you- the len is a function inbuilt in the python. So use the len method, len followed by the parenthesis method, to return the length of an array, the number of which will return the number of elements in an array. So let's see, we create a x variable, and let's we wanted to check, I'm using the same code ahead, same initial statements. So len names will turn out to be 3, as how many values I have assigned to the names? 3 values, right? So the length of these names will be the 3, right? And the x will be assigned a value of 3, and if I try to print x, output will be 3. Okay, so len is clear. So it will calculate how many elements are there, and it will print. So let's see next, looping array elements. So we can calculate the looping of the array elements by using a for loop. So you can use the for loop to loop through all the elements of an array, that is using a print different elements. So print each element in names in array. So let's see, for I is the one static variable created here for displaying the names. So for I in names, so by default I will take a value of 0. So now print I. So whatever is 0, that is names 0. What is the value in the name 0? J. So J will get printed here, and then automatically I will be incremented. You don't have to write down the I is equals to I plus 1. For loop does it automatically in Python. So for the next loop, I will be equals to 1. So for 1 in names, what is the value of 1, or what is the value at the index 1? It is Vijay. So Vijay is printed here, right? Then again the I will be incremented. I will be now turn out to be true, or turn out to be 2. So for 2 in names, print 2. So index 2 holds the value of Sanjay. So Sanjay is printed. So in this way, you can use the looping of array elements in the for loop. Now let's say, can we add the array elements? Yes. In the C language or the C++, for adding the array element, we will have to use the input function, that is scanf or the cin. As the case in C, we will use the scanf. In the C++, we use the cin. For Python arrays, we will be using a function which is called as append. So append will by default will add a value at the end of the variable. So let's see, if I write down the names, names is the variable which I have already declared, then append g1. So g1 is the one value which I wanted to add in the previously declared array. So let's see how it displays. So print names, it will display the list with the added value which is added just now. Okay, so in this way, now the array size will turn out to be 4. Now suppose if you wanted to remove the elements of an array, for that we have to use a pop out or pop function, which is an inbuilt function in the Python. Suppose I wanted to delete the third element in an array. Now, what is the third element in an array? Go to the previous. This is the this is the first element, second element, third element, and the fourth element. But the index will be, this is zeroth index, first index, second index, third index. So if I wanted to remove this third value, I will have to use the index of 2. So let's take deleting the third element in an array. The third element lies where? At the index 2. That's why I will have to write down here as names dot pop 2. So it will delete the Sanjay and it will print the names Jay, Vijay and Jeevan, which are nothing but the elements which are remaining in the array. Now very similar to the pop, remove can also be used for removing the elements of an array. But remember, whenever you are removing an elements of array from remove, it will remove only the first instance where the that particular value will occur. If you are the particular value, suppose take an example here, j if there occurring in the names twice, it will remove only the first occurrence where the j is there. So let's take an example, names dot remove j. Now the j has removed and it will print the names. Now it will display as Vijay, Sanjay and Jeevan. Now you may have a question, in the previous statement we have removed Vijay, but in this again the Vijay appears. So what does that mean? Pop does not delete the elements entirely, but it will display for the current case only, right? For removing the elements you will have to use remove. Okay, so we'll proceed the remaining part in the tomorrow's lecture. Thank you. If you have any comments you can put in the comment section, or you can also post your comments in the classroom. Okay, so I'm stopping now. Thank you.